Greetings, gainers. I'm Ralphie, and welcome to my channel called Fitter Philosophy, in which I generally talk about practical, experience-based Stoic stuff, and hopefully impart a lot of common sense, which has been gained not through any particular intellectual IQ capacity, but through simply the observation over many decades of the human condition, and a situation which has seriously empowered me to do so is being an undertaker for most of my career. I still have my gloves, I still have my top hat. I have been asked by friends, would I dress up as an undertaker for Halloween? For a party, but the answer is no, because that would not be seemingly inappropriate for a professional funeral director to do. Right. So, I've written a book, Life, Death and Whiskey. Sure, quite a bit of it is about whiskey, which is what I generally focus on my other channel called The Whiskey Bothy. But on this little channel, I focus on more of the funeral side. I don't want to kind of mix the two up, as you can imagine, just on one channel. And there's a particular story I want to tell you as part of the Funeral Stories series. And this family appear on page 150 of my book, which you can get on Amazon, self-published. And it's called The Swansons. And the Swansons are a family I only ever met once, but I will never ever forget, because they were full of drama. Lots of drama with the Swansons. You probably know yourself within your community. There's one family that stands out as being a little bit louder, a little bit more charismatic and colourful, with confident singular characters. In fact, you could probably make a reality soap documentary around them. Well, the Swansons, name changed, of course, for the sake of decency and avoiding lawsuits. But the Swansons were definitely one, and this story relates to the funeral of their, oops a daisy, dropping me stick. Here it is, funeral director's stick. Oh boy, it's just got wear and tear over it from over the years. Back in the days when I took it all for granted, now these little mementos are just, it's amazing how quickly they take you back. And I'm changing topic here very briefly, but not for very long. Something that older people have is timeline. Something that there is not enough happening of is sharing that timeline with the younger generation to give them perspective. Back to the Swansons. Excuse me, just getting over a bad cold. It started with the mother passing away, the matriarch of the family, and naturally she had to have a befitting funeral, a grand funeral that fulfilled her status within the family circle, because she was there for everybody. She was everybody's mother, and mother mattered most. The father, funnily enough, never really appeared in the picture so much. I think he was generally considered weaker and therefore not so significant. As a result, he had a far quieter funeral in the previous years when it was his turn. But there was a demand for a police escort to the cemetery from the door of the house. The mother had spent the last day, the day before the funeral, in her house with the opened coffin, and all the family having a celebratory wake with drinks and food and all the rest of it. And the neighbours would not dare complain, even when the party was still going on, till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, because they were that kind of family. When the funeral team, hearse, 3 limousines, arrived, they had already arranged with the police to put out bollards to block off other traffic. They arranged with police to have, because they couldn't get motorcycle outriders, right? They arranged that they would have police on points duty at roundabouts and traffic lights, which was basically one squad car with a rather a harassed looking officer who had other things to do, basically going ahead of the cortege, blue lights on, which pleased the family enormously, down the 1.5 miles from the house to the cemetery. When we arrived at the cemetery, the family had a lot of things arranged, and they had agreed with the clergyman holding the service that he could say what he had to say, so long as it was nothing but nice things, and so long as he read the script they had carefully prepared for him. He did go off script to mention some Bible stuff, but the family did tolerate this. After all, he was a clergyman, a Christian clergyman, and so they rolled with it. There must have been about 200 people at the graveside. Everybody was immaculately dressed. Everybody was showing off wealth. This was a big family who chose their company carefully and who always wanted to make a big impression. There was a large laundry basket brought to the graveside as soon as the clergyman had finished. And after a short speech by the head of the family, it was opened, and the doves of peace, who should have dutifully flown out and circled round the grave and prepared the way for a rainbow and perhaps a few angels. I know I'm being facetious, but I'm not making this. This is what happens in real life. This is what humans are like. Seriously. The doves didn't want to leave the basket because the rain had just come on. So 2 of the men from the family came over and started kicking and shaking the basket to get the doves out. The doves panicked, flew out of the basket, straight up into the trees above the grave to seek some sort of refuge away from the humans, which promptly startled the crows who were nesting at the tops of the trees, who then attacked the doves. So there was a cascade of mainly white feathers and a few black feathers coming down, and quite a racket. At this point the rain really came on. A young lady came forward because she was the singer. She was going to be a star, right? And she started to sing and cry at the same time because she'd been put in the spot. She wasn't properly dressed for the occasion, so she was shivering in the cold, but she managed to struggle through it, got a massive roar of applause, was lifted above the crowd by one of the men, just so everybody could see her and applaud her. At which point she was put down and taken under the wing of some of the females. At which point another older woman came forward to recite a poem she had written, which went on and on and on and on, and the rain got harder and harder, and the diggers basically got further away from the graveside to stand under the trees just to get out of the growing melodrama that was ensuing. I had no choice. I'm standing there. I've got to witness all this and look after the clergyman next to me just to make sure that they survive the experience. After which there was a guitarist, a musical instrument, a musician brought forward. We're now about 25 minutes into the service. The rain's not going away. People are shifting their feet, so it's getting muddier and muddier. Some folks start to slip because they've not got appropriate footwear for a cemetery on a rainy day. Someone takes a tumble. There's a little bit of drama, lots of oohs and ahs and oohs. Meanwhile, the musician carries on like nothing's happened. Then they finish, at which point about 6 men from the family go into the back of a Range Rover and bring out this massive plinth of stone. And it's very expensive. And they've had it specially commissioned. And it's in the shape of a kind of pyramids and ascending angels, sort of angels sweeping out a pyramid type thing. One of them then beckons over the gravedigger, the main gravedigger who comes across. He then goes, starts putting cash in his hand, in full view of everybody, and says in a loud voice, "We're going to watch you backfill the grave now. We're putting that on top, and if anybody moves it, we'll be back to shoot you." You may be wondering what this is all about. Can this possibly, surely this is some kind of movie script. But unfortunately not, because part of the human habit is to take cues from movies so as that people feel like they're in the movies, irrespective of how ridiculous the situation becomes. The number of times over the years, Gainers, that I've seen humans go from surreal to more surreal is impressive. Many times this has happened. People literally start to create the reality around them. They engineer it. And with the Swansons, they eventually left the cemetery. I stayed behind as a witness for the diggers. So I could say, right guys, I'm here to witness you have backfilled the grave. There's family members witnessing backfilled the graves. I actually went over to and said, by the way, are you content that everything is backfilled to your standards and that the stone that you have brought here is in the right position? Right. I could ask you to take a photograph of it, please, because the diggers are going to take a photograph of it too, to show that it is and has not and will not be disturbed. This is part of my professional duties. When you're dealing with people that aren't connected to the real world anymore, and importantly are not aware of it, you've got to act as a sort of intermediary. And it's just the way it is.